All right, hello, my name is Brian Schmit. I'm the author of the book Glory Days, The History of Port Richey. I'm also here on behalf of the West Pasco Historical Society. Today we're very privileged to be here with Frances Clark Mallett. And Frances has an unbelievable history of her family, starting out possibly even going back to Jamestown as one of the very first settlers in America. But then definitely starting out with St. Augustine, where her family went there back in the 1762, I think. Is that when it was? 1762, which was the very first year in which the British took over from the Spanish in the trade in which the Spanish got Cuba. Florida became a British colony for a 20-year period, and that's when her family was the very first, among the very first of the British families that moved into St. Augustine. And then once again, if that isn't all enough, here we are in West Pasco, the Port Richey area, in which her family once again was the very first family to be settled here in what would be the
permanent settler.
Permanent settler, thank you for that clarification. In the Port Richey area. So an unbelievable family history. So thank you very much, Frances, for being here with us today.
It's a privilege.
We'll start out something easy. We'll start out about talking about you growing up here in Port Richey. Could you tell us a little bit about your family life and you growing up
well,
here?
You know, we had people always talk about the blacks. We consider them a part of our family, but they did respect coming in the back door and eating separately.
Okay.
But we took care of them.
What was your house like? Where did you live?
I was born, that house they just tore down. Right on the river.
Oh, right on the river, kind of where Catches is?
Nick's.
By Nick's Park?
Where Nick's built his house.
Okay.
You know, me and my siblings are the only descendants of both Nick's and Clark.
Okay. And so, did you have brothers and sisters, or?
Yeah, I had one brother, and he's the one that developed Hudson Beach.
Okay.
And he was a Victor Jr., Victor Clark Jr.
Okay.
And the three sisters, Corinne, she was born in Tarpon Springs, but Grace and I and Bud were all born in Port Richey.
Okay. How did your family make a living? Did you have?
My father was a surveyor and
Okay.
engineer, civil engineer.
Good. Okay. Did you have any? Did you fish a lot? Did you have any gardens or anything that you?
Gardens?
Sure.
Oh, yeah. Dad believed in balancing the soil.
Okay.
And I have a seed catalog that recently said that what Dad did. He would plant a hill of beans and a hill of corn and a hill of squash. And he said that balanced the soil. And I had the seed book from Kilgore not too many years ago. It had that statement in it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So were there a lot of people living right around you at the time?
No, the only playmate I had was a black girl.
Okay. Nearby?
We had a black washwoman and a black cook. And
Is that right? Did you go to school nearby? Where did you go to school?
I went to Pierce Grammar.
Okay. Pierce Grammar, that was at like 1915?
The facade of the Pierce is the library.
The library today, right.
They tear all of it down, but the facade.
So that's a little ways away for you. How did you get to school each day?
Bus.
Okay, there was a bus.
We had one bus coming from Arapika,
Okay.
and Fred Cobb drove it. He drove it home every night, but he made a circle. He would pick up all the children from Arapika, Hudson, and all down the road, and take them and drop them off at the schools, different schools.
Okay.
And Jeff made me keep my hands still.
You're okay. Don't worry.
I'm not Italian.
How was it?
And then he would come back and make the loop around the old post road and the bridge and Port Richey and pick the kids up.
Okay. Well, were there many bridges that crossed the river at that time?
Jeff found the picture of the hand. Jeff found the picture published in the Tarpon Leader
Okay.
of the bridge, the Port Richey Bridge, built in 1911.
Okay.
Remember it?
So 1911. So you were born in 1919. And was your class size big? There were a lot of people at the school, or
But
as far as your classroom, were there a lot of people in your class?
I saved about 30 children.
Okay.
From that included all of
Mm-hmm.
Arapika, Odessa, Elfers.
Okay, so a lot of people came to that Pierce
Yeah.
school.
We didn't have a lot of different classes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not a lot of teachers either, probably?
What?
Were there a lot of teachers that you had, or?
No.
No.
We had, I remember one teacher especially, Eliza Waddy Revels. She was married and divorced, and she was the best teacher
Is that right?
I.
Why was she your best teacher?
Oh, she didn't have any trouble getting the children to do their work, because she read us Tom Swift every day.
Oh, okay.
And boy, we'd get the work done
Just to hear Tom Swift, huh?
and continue with Tom Swift.
Okay. So you were living in Port Richey, and then you went to school in Port Richey. Was there a lot of difference between the two towns at that time? Can you kind of tell us about?
No. In fact, all West Pasco was, everybody knew everybody.
Was that right?
Yep.
So now in Newport Richey, with the hacienda being built in the 20s, so you were just a little girl then, but even into the 30s, there were quite a few celebrities around Newport Richey. Did you ever come across, do you remember, I know you were just a girl, but do you remember coming across any of those? What was that like?
Gene Saracen tried to teach me to play golf, and I didn't like golf.
You did? Where did he do that?
We had a 9-hole golf course around Orange Lake.
Oh, around Orange Lake, right?
Yeah.
The little tiny golf course. He put that in there, I think, specifically to teach.
I don't know.
To teach
who
kids, I
put
think.
it in there.
Yeah.
But I imagine he had it. But I remember when he won the world championship that year. I don't know what it was called. I don't keep up with golf. And
I believe he won the U.S. Open. Yeah.
that's what.
Right.
Yeah. Well, they let the school out, and we sat on Main Street along the curb, all the school children,
Oh, yeah?
and they presented the check to him in that open touring car.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's pretty neat. Was he a nice guy, or what was he
Oh,
like?
I wasn't that closely
You weren't
acquainted with him.
Okay. How about any other? Did you see other celebrities at all, or were you guys, as a local person, were you really aware of the celebrities that came to town?
I remember Thomas Mann,
Okay.
but not personally, you know.
Sure. Did you ever go to like the Mann Theater?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Silent movie.
Silent movies?
Yeah.
Okay. Did they have a piano player at all for that, or do you
I don't
recall?
remember that,
Okay.
but I remember going to the Palms Theater
Really?
and a dirt floor and benches,
What was the floor like?
dirt.
It was dirt. It was a dirt
And
floor.
I
Okay.
remember kicking my shoes off
Okay.
and running my feet through the dirt.
And bench seating, huh?
Yeah.
So, did people, was one more expensive than the other, or did you go to one more than the other? Or?
Oh, I did go to Palms many times.
No.
But I don't know, really. My dad's office was up there, just above the theater.
Okay. Your dad,
He was a civil engineer.
when he was a civil engineer?
His office was just up there, above the
The Meehan Theater,
not,
or the Palms?
no, the Meehan Theater.
Meehan Theater.
And then, I think they call it the Suncoast Theater now.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
but we thought that my sister and I thought we had it made because we thought we could slip in and go to the movies. But it was segregated, as you know.
Okay.
And the blacks were on the side that Dad's office was, so we couldn't go.
Oh, I see. Okay. Interesting. So, but it was a pretty popular place, the theater?
I think so.
How about the Hacienda? Was that, did you get a chance to go in there at all?
Oh, yes. When I was 15 years old, I went to the Chasco Ball and the Fireman's Ball.
Okay.
The firemen had a ball every year. And they had a free fish fry
Right.
on 4th of July, and they had the Fireman's Ball.
Okay.
And I went to the Fireman's Ball and the Chasco Ball.
Okay. So did
That
the,
was in the 30s.
in the 30s, did the local population use it more in the summertime, and then the people from up north that came down for vacations was more in the wintertime, the Hacienda?
You mean rooms?
But just as far as who was using the building? You know what I mean?
No.
Okay. Okay, so well, you talked about your father. Now your father, Victor Clark, right, was the
Not Mallett.
not Vic Mallett, the very prominent educator in Pasco County, but Vic Clark was the first elected mayor of Port Richey. Is that correct?
They when they organized the city, they wanted Dad to be mayor, but they didn't. He said he thought he could be more useful as an engineer,
Okay,
and so they appointed Charles Hoffman.
gotcha.
So he was the first legal mayor, I guess.
All right.
But when election time came, Dad was elected.
They didn't really give him a choice then. They wanted him as mayor. What was that like, having your dad be the mayor? No big deal for you, huh?
Dad had a lot of politicians that were friends of his.
Okay.
And they visited us. I didn't think anything about it.
Okay. Yeah, I see. So you were here, so if you're born in 1919, and you're basically a little girl during that time, with your father being mayor, but during the 1930s, we had the Depression. What was the area like during the Depression?
Well, we had Dad would buy the seed. Grandpa Nix gave Mother 10 acres, and Dad planted a grove, and we had a big garden. We had a kind of swampy area, cypress swamp, and the back end of, and Dad planted a garden around that because the soil was rich.
Okay.
And we had all the vegetables we could eat all year round. So, because green things, you know,
Sure.
Winter. But,
So you survived the Depression largely with
and
growing your own, huh?
we loved our mullet and grits.
Oh yeah? So you did a lot of fishing. What, now,
Dad liked to cast net.
okay. Did you have a dock behind your house?
No, he would go to the next park.
Okay,
It was Hope Landing at that time.
okay.
But after I was born, I was named for Grandpa Nix's mother, Frances Fair. And she was born in Charleston, South Carolina. And when he went to he would take we had a little colored boy being raised by his grandmother. His grandmother died, and Dad just brought him over to the house. We had a wash house in the back of our house, a
Okay.
2-room. And so J.W. stayed in the wash house,
Okay.
but he took his meals with us, of course. And what impressed me one time, Dad, he designed a chicken coop for the chickens. We had a big chicken yard. And, you know, they have this slings the people slide on now.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, we had one way back then because we ran a big wire
Okay.
from between two trees, and
Like a zip line? Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah.
Is that right?
And-
Okay.
and we. But Dad, get back to this chicken coop. Dad designed it so he could let he built it off the ground, and the whole front of it would fold down, had a door, and he could get the fertilizer out. He had a wooden thing that
Okay.
so we had chickens and pigs.
Okay. So you had a lot of ways to help yourself out
Yeah,
during the Depression.
And he was, I get back to J.W. Dad knew the tides when they was right. When the tide was high, there was a sandbar in front of Nick's Park.
Okay.
And when I digress, but when Grandpa, my mother named me after his father, he gave the park to the town of Port Richey
Okay.
in January 1920.
Really? Why did he give the park to the town?
Because he was named after his mother
Oh, is that
in
right?
1919.
Okay. So just to honor her and
Yeah.
help out the city.
And he changed the name to Sunset Parker Landing.
Okay.
It was Hope Landing, where the his they would. That's going back to the Hopes.
Okay, sure.
Anyway, he would take JW, and JW would bring a wash tub and pull it behind him, and Dad would catch mullet and fill it up, and all the neighbors had fish and grits for
Oh,
supper.
is that right? So yeah, it sounds like the river was kind of teeming with fish back in those days, huh?
Mullet.
And a lot of mullet, huh?
Of course, the casino boat kind of chopped it up.
Oh, is that right? So,
Mad at my cousin Hap for years
oh,
about selling that property to the casino boat.
oh, I see. Yeah. Well, yeah, so right now the boat ramp there at
Next
the park is used quite a bit, and that area I think is making a little bit of a comeback, and so that's nice to see. So your father was a Clark, your mother a Nix, and your grandfather then, if you go back that far, James Washington Clark, was one of the very first settlers to
He
this
was
area.
the first permanent settler.
The first permanent settler to the area. What brought him to the area?
Cattle.
Cattle.
He was discharged at the Appomattox at the end of the Civil War.
He was at Appomattox at the end of the Civil War?
Yes.
Your family's unbelievable. Every turn, so okay.
I
keep
tell
going.
you, when you get me wound up in the history.
Yeah, that's incredible. So he's discharged at Appomattox, and then
He had been wounded 3 times, I think, but he got over it, and he made friends with Malcolm Hill.
okay.
Malcolm Hill was born in Ocala, Florida, so he decided to come to Florida with Malcolm Hill
Okay.
and stayed a few years in some time. I don't know how many, just how long.
Okay.
He with in Ocala,
Okay.
and so
They were-
when he decided he wanted to not only have cattle, he wanted to raise citrus.
Okay.
So he came down to Brooksville
All right.
and has started building his cattle and bought property. He traveled the old Salt Road to down to Salt Spring. They first found the salt content of Salt Springs when the cattle would come down to the salt licks,
Okay.
and they would drive them back.
So the cattle would come all the way from Brooksville all the way down this
Yes.
area?
It's
Right.
called the Old Salt Road,
Okay. So they didn't have any fence laws
No,
or anything
no
during that
fence.
time?
and
Okay.
so they would come down and drive them back. Just branded their cattle, and
Okay. So then, did he finally decide, what made him decide to move down here?
well, he kept driving his cattle back, and they didn't like it. They
Okay.
would come back. So
All right. So he just got tired of doing that, huh?
they said, can't lick 'em, join 'em.
All right.
So he came and started clearing and planting his citrus groves.
Okay. On this area, and then was there a post office down here,
The post office was Hopeville.
or on Hopeville? Okay, now hold off on Hopeville. Yeah, I want to continue on with Clark. So now, so Clark also brought kind of a namesake for Port Richey down here. How did that occur with?
Oh, he means, after he moved down here, he maintained a meat market in Brooksville.
Okay.
It's to sell fresh meat. So Mr. Richey came in to buy meat one day, and during the conversation, Mr. Richey mentioned that he was looking for a place on the water. He thought it would be good for his wife. She had asthma or something.
Okay.
So,
right, I've heard that. Yeah.
And so Grandpa Clark told him that he knew of a place that he might be interested in. So he brought him down to show him I forget his first name, but Mr. Sowers built that house that Richie bought.
Okay.
It was first post office in.
All right. So so Richie bought the Sowers land, and then he became a neighbor of Clark. And was there anything? Did Clark want your grandfather want people in the area? Was the area kind of rough during that time? As far as cattle rustlers or anything, I had heard that.
Yes, bad.
Pretty bad. So a lot of.
One day after in 1889, Grandpa Clark built a new house.
Okay.
And my father wasn't born in that house. It wasn't finished till after he was born.
Okay.
But he was born in 1889.
All
My
right.
father
Oh, I see. Okay.
in Port Richey.
In Port Richey.
Yeah. And so Mr. Richey bought that house, and he would have to go to Tarpon Springs to get the mail, but he got tired of that, and he went to Tampa to register his boat.
Okay.
It's a custom house, and he said he wouldn't. They wanted him for his port of entry.
Okay. Sure.
And so he said, well, doesn't have any name really. He didn't mention Hopeville.
Okay.
He said, just call it Port Richey.
Okay.
So,
And the name stuck, and then the
The
post
post
office
office.
came, Port Richey.
July the 9th, 1884.
Is the post office?
Yeah, Mr. Richey came in 1883,
Okay.
and
All right. So now back to then Hopeville. So even before all of this happened, the area around here was known as Hopeville.
yes.
And your family, you're part of the Hope family. Can you tell us anything about how they came and who came and what they were doing?
I've got a thing in there that tells you about all that.
Okay.
I put it.
Okay.
in my
Yeah, well,
notes.
we can kind of look through that a lot later. But do you recall they had because you mentioned the salt mine. Now, were they involved in?
Not salt mine,
Okay, not salt mine.
salt works,
Salt works. Okay, a different thing, right? Because they're
Yeah.
getting it from the spring.
yes.
Okay. And now, were they involved? The whole family was involved in.
David Hope,
Okay, David Hope, which is your great grandfather.
grandfather, yes.
Okay.
That's my dad's grand.
Okay.
And he was co-owner of the salt works.
Okay.
And I have a book. I let my son's wife borrow it when she was on the board, and
Haven't got back to you yet. Huh? That'll happen. So the salt works now during the time period, because the salt works, I saw advertisements that they were selling salt, and they provided salt for the Civil War.
Yes.
So now, was your family working at salt works during the Civil War, or was?
Yes. David Hope
Okay.
was, and he puts his they would go down what they called Hope Landing Road,
Okay.
and take the salt and toward the river, where Nick's Park is. It was Hope Landing,
I see.
and
So they established Hopeville. Now, was that just kind of what the area was called, or did it have any official designation?
yes, on the maps, didn't it? All the maps had Hopeville long before they had Port Richey.
So Aaron Ritchie should have known that and said his port was
Some
Hopeville,
people,
huh?
you know, Musunuru,
Sure. Yeah.
he wants his name on everything.
Sure. Sure.
So, and
Okay.
Grandpa didn't care.
Okay. All right. So the Hopes were here even before Civil War, and I think Samuel Hope, which I think was a nephew of David Hope, was here. I think might have been originally here.
That brown book tells you. I didn't know where Samuel Hope
Okay.
came from. We've got a picture out of there.
Right. He came down here quite early.
But he was at Anclote.
Right, off the Anclote River. And then your side of the family, David Hope, and he had a brother Henry. I don't know if he was down here too.
No,
Okay.
I don't know where. We didn't. That was my mother's grandfather.
Okay. Do you know if the Hopes had a house down here at all?
No, they didn't. I don't know
Okay.
about if they had like a camp.
Okay. Right, when they were working it.
When the salt works.
Okay.
But I know people had camps because they worked in the salt works.
Right. Right. So, well, that's just an amazing story about your family and being here for so long.
We've been here for just 7 generations.
7 generations.
Now we still have 4 generations of Mallets.
Yeah, they're still coming, huh? Well, truly a remarkable lady that you've been here, and you've been involved with the West Pasco Historical Society for quite some time yourself here, right?
Yes, I had the museum in Port Richey
Okay.
until the mayor, I forget his name now. Good not to mention names.
Sure.
Anyway, he decided he needed a room, so I gave some things to the Baker House and some things to this.
Okay. Great, and then you've been involved here
Yes.
quite a bit over the years.
And Julie Obenrader and I were good friends. She said, "I feel like you're my sister."
Okay.
She said that.
Very good, very good. Well, you've been a treasure to have here with the Historical Society, and your family obviously has so much to do with the development of the area. So
Yeah.
thank you very much for joining us today. Really appreciate that.